Going on, y'all? How's your guys' day going? Hope you're having a good day. My day's good. Thank you for asking. So, if you haven't seen the explosion of ridiculousness on my most previous post on Instagram, you'd be wondering what caused me to come to this thought, so to speak. And I don't want to talk too much about that post just because of how silly it is, how ridiculous it is. I love it. It's my favorite aspect about the internet is that you can say and post anything, and there is a very likely chance that people will bombard you with their retardation and just try to shove rocks down your mouth, kind of, like, because they eat rocks, and so they think that you're supposed to as well. And so they just keep shoving down, and you're trying to stop them, but they don't. And so anyways, I was just thinking, and I just kept laughing. I kept laughing about how different it is when it happens to you, right? Because you see these things happening. And I started going down a train of thought, which I usually do. You know how you start with one thought and then you kind of trickle down into other thoughts and whatnot. I very slowly came to this thought that it seems like everything in terms of how we interact socially is just trolling now. It really is. And I don't just mean the idea that everything is rage bait now, right? Because I'm sure you've heard a lot of people saying that recently, within the last year. It seems like everything under the sun can be considered rage bait, right? Somebody says something stupid and you make fun of them. Oh, I was just rage baiting. Somebody tries to challenge you in a intellectual debate. I was just rage baiting. Somebody insults you and you take it personally and you call them out. I was just rage baiting, right? I'm not just talking about those types of scenarios, which is definitely a problem, but I would go even further. I would go even deeper, even more into the subtle aspects of how we interact with each other. And I guess in a lot of ways, it's already been said in a very, I guess, sophisticated and fancy manner, but when you boil it down and when you strip it of those fancy words and whatnot, you kind of see it for what it is in, I guess, a more raw form, if that makes sense. And what it is I'm describing is the kind of thoughts where, if you've ever heard the quote, I believe it's, "A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but in only expressing his opinion." And again, that's just a very fancy way of saying somebody has no interest in actually understanding you or understanding anything. They just want to talk. They just want to hear their own voice and speak, right? And again, that's a very fancy way of saying something, and it comes across very wise, right? But when you look at it from the perspective of they're literally just trolling, that's what it really is, to me at least, right? You might think that might be I guess, improper word, or there's a better word to use, or this is something much more sophisticated. But it really does seem like, whether people mean to or not, they're just trolling. They're trolling. And again, they don't have to intentionally be trolling you. They can really just be stupid, right? Again, if you've ever heard the quote, "Ignorance is as sufficient as malice," which is just a fancy way of saying somebody really stupid is as dangerous as somebody intentionally trying to hurt you. It's the same exact thing. And I'll give you some examples, because you see it all the time, right? There's plenty. You can go on the internet and there will be more than enough evidence of these types of people, in my opinion, trolling. They're trolling. And what that looks like is, if you've seen the most recent, I believe it's on the tip of my tongue. It's a Supergirl. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. The most recent Supergirl drama, all that BS going on, right? She is doing the exact same thing as the other girl. I can't remember. It's I think Rachel Zegler, something like that. I can't remember her name. I was so unbothered by that whole situation that I can't even remember her name. Regardless, apparently people are saying that she's doing the exact same thing that girl did, and so that's why Supergirl is going to flop. And so me being me, when I see these people put on stage, when I see people being put in the spotlight and acting ridiculous and saying stupid things, My first thought is always the same thing, which is what I've been saying this entire video, is that they're really just trolling. And what I mean when I say that, though, is that I've never been the type of person to take almost anything that most people say seriously. And not just seriously in the sense that they're joking, but seriously in the sense that this is something that I should be paying attention to, or this is someone that I actually want to listen to because they might have something interesting to say. Right? I very rarely come to that thought or conclusion when I'm listening to people. And it's just because of the way the world is. It's not like I'm not some elitist, right? Like I'm not trying to be, lowbrow thought, you cannot reach my echelon of thought, right? It's not one of those things by any means. It's just that nowadays, with the way the world is, right, I don't need to explain it to you, there is almost never an instance in which you do want to listen to what someone has to say, because they're either going to regurgitate something you've already heard 1,000 times, like how I'm doing now, ironically, or they're going to not place any sense of value to what it is they have to say. And not only that, but it's so ironic. And this is my personal reason why I chose the word trolling. And it's because the wrong people, or maybe not wrong, I should say, but the, I guess, like, unintended audience is always the one who is reacting to said people trolling. And again, we can use that Supergirl analogy as a perfect example, right? She goes up there, journalists are asking her stupid questions because that's what journalists do, right? And she gives stupid answers, whether she knows it or not. And then every single person in the internet, I guess, or the online sphere, I feel like I sound like such a boomer. I sound so old saying that. Oh my God. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that everybody within that community, everybody that actually cares about those things, like has a chip on their shoulder or something, like they're just waiting for somebody to say something and then they can reply. Like, kind of not necessarily a keyboard warrior. I wouldn't go so far to say that, but just people who have way too much ambition trying to reply to people that don't care. Which is why, again, I'm saying it's trolling. Because guess what? That actor does not care. I promise you, dude. I can't prove it to you, right? But I would bet you any amount of money that she could care less. She does not care what you have to say. And yet, these people feel the need to respond. They feel the need to say the things that they want to say, right? And go ahead, by all means. I'm not, being the type of person who says you shouldn't say those things. Say whatever you want to say, but it's very important that you keep in mind that she's trolling you. And it isn't one of those trolls, again, where it's on purpose. That's what makes it so funny, though. Or to me, maybe not funny, but that's what makes it so interesting, almost like a phenomenon. And we could put this into multiple examples. I could go on, but I'll give you yet another one, right? And it could be the inverse, actually, which makes it also equally interesting, right? Let's say you have somebody who is very, very opinionated, and they are whoever. It could be really anybody you want. For the sake of conversation, let's say it's another actor, right? And they're making a movie, and this movie is about battling the patriarchy, battling the narrative and the agendas that women cannot do the same things that men can, blah, 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 right? All of the same stuff we've already heard 1,000 times yet, over and over and over again, right? And so this person is saying and doing all of the things that they're doing in order to battle those people that think those things. But you want to know what the funniest part about all of it is? That the people that person is trying to talk to will, there's almost a guarantee that they will never see that video, that anything, the movie, the behind the scenes, your interview, anybody else's interview. They're probably cracking a beer, sitting, barbecuing, chatting with their buddies, regurgitating all the things that you would hate to hear. And again, it could be the inverse. It goes like vice versa. And that's what makes it so funny. It's where this extremely elaborate trolling that is just embedded in human nature almost. Like I really do believe that. And it's even funnier though, because again, you know how I said earlier that it's always the people that are in that community that are responding, but they don't have the self-awareness to realize that that person is not, I don't want to say like, it isn't that they aren't talking to you, it's just that you're not what they think of though. That's the thing, right? When that person says the things that they're saying, they're more than likely not thinking of somebody like you who's very, you know, knows what they're talking about and is ready to have that kind of debate and have that kind of conversation, right? No, their entire goal and their entire thing in mind is people that don't think that way, people that aren't that way, people that don't know how to talk about these things. And yet, those same people, right, that are in that community, that are very well versed in, I guess, just the whole whatever, really, I guess, just the community, I suppose, really, I guess that's the only way to put it. They seem to be the only people who ever end up responding. And I'm sure this has been thought of and spoken about 1,000 times, but I don't know why. It just tickled me in a weird way. I hope that doesn't sound weird. It like tickled my brain that I thought of it in that way, because that really is what it is, right? Because we could put two examples side by side, right? Go watch a CosDef video, Black Ops 2 trolling from CosDef way back in the day, and watch him, whether he means to or not, whether he intentionally is trying to mess with somebody and agitate them, or even just talking sometimes. Sometimes he'll just be talking out loud and that person will feel the need to respond. And he's like, I'm not even talking to you. I don't know why you're trying to butt in on my conversation. I'm trying not to laugh, sorry. It's just cracking me up thinking about the irony and the beauty of it all. Gosh, I sound so pedantic. Anyways. Right, so he's doing what he's doing, right? He's doing his craft and whatnot. And then you take the same exact example of somebody online doing the most to try and battle whatever it is they're trying to battle, or the inverse, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Somebody's just spouting nonsense, and then people who are extremely, I guess, aware of what it is they're talking about are constantly trying to have a debate with those people, and then they never realize that that person was never interested in having that conversation, because to them, it was never an idea. It was never something that was going to happen. It was always exactly what I said at the beginning of the video. It was always going to be them expressing their opinion and never being interested in understanding. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you agree, disagree, let me know what you think down below. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching.